First contact fallout. The UES Thunderchild hung in the void like a predator waiting to strike, its titanium alloy hull absorbing the distant starlight rather than reflecting it. Inside the bridge, Captain Maya Reeves studied the tactical hologram displaying the Sphæron fleet movements. 20 ships moving in perfect formation, their crystalline structures glinting as they approached the human colony on Kepler 442 bits. Stealth systems holding at 97% efficiency. Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his fingers dancing across the neural interface. They haven't detected us yet. Maya nodded, her expression betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. 6 months ago, humanity had made first contact with the Sphæron Collective. 6 months ago, they'd learned that humans weren't welcome in the galactic community. The Sphæron ambassador had been clear: surrender your colonies or face extinction. Weapons status? Maya asked, her voice steady. All conventional systems ready, Weapons Officer Chen replied. The sunbreak device, his, stable for now. Maya could hear the hesitation in Chen's voice. Nobody trusted the experimental weapon, least of all the engineers who had rushed its development. But with 12 human outposts already reduced to radioactive ash and Earth's defenses stretched beyond breaking point, they had little choice. Communications, any word from command. Communications Officer Rodriguez shook her head. Last transmission confirms Operation Sunbreak is authorized. We're on our own now, Captain. The weight of 40,000 lives aboard the Thunderchild pressed down on Maya's shoulders. The last major warship Earth could spare, carrying the only weapon that might save their species. The Sphæron are beginning their attack formation, Jackson announced. Colony defense systems are activating. On the hologram, tiny lights flickered as the colony's meager defense platforms engage. They wouldn't last 5 minutes against the Collective's weapons. The Sphæron ships moved with the coordination of a single organism, their formation shifting in response to the defense platform's fire. Bring us to attack position, Maya ordered. Prepare to drop stealth on my mark. The Thunderchild moved silently through space, positioning itself behind the Sphæron formation. Intelligence had identified a potential weakness in the crystalline vessels, their energy distribution nodes located at the rear. Dr. Keller to the bridge. Maya spoke into the comm. Moments later, the disheveled figure of Dr. Elise Keller arrived, her eyes bloodshot from too many sleepless nights working on the sunbreak device. Are we ready? Maya asked. As ready as we'll ever be, Keller replied. The quantum field manipulator should disrupt their communication network. In theory, anyway. Maya had learned to distrust theories in the past 6 months. The Sphæron shouldn't have been able to withstand human railgun fire, in theory. The colony shouldn't have fallen so quickly, in theory. The colony's outer defenses have failed, Jackson reported grimly. First wave of Sphæron landing craft are deploying. Maya watched the hologram as tiny specks descended toward the colony's surface. Thousands of colonists would die in the next few hours if they failed. Drop stealth. All batteries target their rear nodes. Deploy countermeasures and launch Sunbreak, Maya ordered, her voice echoing across the bridge. The Thunderchild shimmered into visibility as its stealth systems disengage. Immediately, alarms blared as the Sphæron fleet registered the human warship. They're responding. Jackson called out. Fleet is breaking formation to engage. Fire, Maya commanded. The Thunderchild shuddered as its railguns unleashed devastation, hypervelocity rounds striking the rear of the nearest Sphæron vessel. Its crystalline structure cracked but didn't shatter as they had hoped. Sunbreak device launching, Chen reported. From the belly of the Thunderchild, a small, unassuming probe launched, accelerating toward the center of the Sphæron formation. The enemy ships immediately focused their attention on the probe, energy weapons charging. Sunbreak activation in 3, 2, 1. Keller counted down. The probe detonated in a silent flash. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the hologram flickered. What's happening? Maya demanded. It's working, Keller exclaimed, staring at her tablet. The quantum field is disrupting their hive communications. On the display, the perfect formation of the Sphæran fleet began to falter. Ships moved erratically, some colliding with each other as their coordinated movements broke down. They're individuals now, Maya realized. Target their flagship and fire everything we've got. The Thunderchild's weapon systems unleashed hell upon the largest Sphæran vessel. Without the collective guiding their defenses, the crystalline ship couldn't adapt quickly enough. Fractures appeared across its surface as railgun rounds penetrated its structure. Their flagship is breaking apart, Jackson reported triumphantly. Maya allowed herself a moment of hope before reality crashed back. Status of the colony. Rodriguez's expression fell. Ground invasion continuing. The Sunbreak device didn't affect their ground forces. Of course it hadn't. The quantum disruption field had a limited range, barely enough to cover the fleet. The colonists were still in danger. Prepare landing craft, Maya ordered. We're deploying Marines. Captain, Executive Officer Liu objected. We're outnumbered 10-1 down there. And we've just proven that doesn't matter, Maya countered. The Sphæran have never faced humans without their hive advantage. Let's show them why that was their only hope of victory. As the Thunderchild moved to engage the remaining Sphæran vessels, Maya couldn't help but think of her brother who had died when the new Mars colony fell. The Sphæran had believed humans would surrender when faced with superior technology and numbers. They hadn't accounted for human tenacity or spite. The remaining vessels are retreating, Jackson announced with surprise. Confirm, Maya ordered, unwilling to believe their luck. Confirmed. They're breaking orbit and accelerating away from the colony. A cheer went up across the bridge, quickly silenced by Maya's raised hand. This isn't over. Launch the landing craft and secure the colony. I want prisoners for interrogation. As the Thunderchild's Marines deployed to the surface, Maya studied the retreating Sphæran ships. This wasn't a victory, merely the first successful defense in what promised to be a long war. Dr. Keller, can we replicate the Sunbreak device? She asked quietly. With what we've learned today? Yes, Keller replied. But they'll adapt. The collective always adapts. Maya nodded grimly. Then we'll need to adapt faster. Reports from the surface began filtering in. Heavy Sphæran resistance. Thousands of colonists dead or injured. But the tide was turning. Without their hive connection, the Sphæran ground forces were still dangerous, but no longer omniscient in their coordination. Captain, Rodriguez called out. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Winters, his expression stern but with the faintest hint of hope in his eyes. Captain Reeves, report. Sunbreak worked, sir, Maya replied. The Sphæran fleet has retreated. We're securing the colony now. Excellent work, Captain, Winters said. But I'm afraid I have more bad news. The Sphæran attacks were a diversion. Their main fleet is heading for the Arcturus station. If it falls, Earth is exposed. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Arcturus station was humanity's most important deep space installation, the linchpin of Earth's early warning system. How soon can the Thunderchild be ready to jump? Winters asked. Maya looked to her executive officer, who conferred quickly with engineering. 6 hours minimum, sir, Liu reported. The Sunbreak deployment strained our drives. You have 4, Winters replied grimly. Arcturus reports the Sphæran will arrive in 12. You're the only ship with proven countermeasures. As the transmission ended, Maya turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral. We have 4 hours to get back in the fight. The ship can't take that kind of strain, Liu objected. The ship will have to, Maya replied, her voice leaving no room for argument. Because if Arcturus falls, we all do. As the Thunderchild's engines powered up for emergency repairs, Maya stared at the tactical display showing the Sphæran retreat. They had won this skirmish, but the war was just beginning. Humanity had revealed its hand. Their quantum disruption technology. The Sphæran would be planning countermeasures already. Dr. Keller, Maya called out. I need an upgraded version of Sunbreak, one they won't be expecting. Keller blinked in surprise. Captain, we haven't even analyzed the data from this deployment. Then you have 4 hours to do so, Maya replied. Humanity just proved we can fight back. Now we need to prove we can win. As the bridge crew rushed to their stations, Maya allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. The Sphairon had believed humans would be easy prey. Today they had learned differently. Today was just the beginning of humanity's defiance. The edge of extinction. The Thunderchild tore through hyperspace, its engines straining beyond safety parameters. Warning lights flashed across Engineering Chief Tanaka's console, but he ignored them, focusing instead on maintaining the delicate balance that kept the warship from tearing itself apart. 2 minutes to Arcturus Station, Jackson announced on the bridge, his voice tight with tension. Captain Maya Reeves gripped the arms of her command chair, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. The 4-hour repair window had stretched to 5, and every minute gained had cost them in system stability. Status of the modified Sunbreak device, she asked. Dr. Keller looked up from her workstation, her fingers still typing calculations. Untested and highly experimental, she replied frankly. The quantum disruption field is now designed to propagate through their communication network instead of merely blocking it. In theory, it could cascade through their entire fleet. And in practice? Executive Officer Leo asked. Keller's expression was grim. In practice, we might create the equivalent of a technological plague that drives their hive mind into chaos, or it might do nothing at all. Dropping out of hyperspace in 3, 2, 1, the navigation officer called out. The view screen flickered as the Thunderchild emerged into normal space, and directly into hell. Arcturus Station was already under attack, its massive ring structure partially shattered. Surrounding it were at least 30 Sphairon vessels, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with energy as they methodically disabled the station's defense platforms. My God, Lou whispered. We're too late. Maya's jaw tightened. No, we're not. Status of station life support. Jackson studied the readings, still functioning in approximately 60% of the structure. I'm reading thousands of life signs. And the Sphairon? Maya pressed. They haven't spotted us yet, Chen reported from weapons. Their focus is entirely on the station. Maya's mind raced. The original plan, to arrive before the Sphairon and set up a defensive position, was no longer viable. They needed something new, something desperate. Lieutenant Rodriguez, open a channel to whoever's in command at the station, she ordered. After a tense moment, the view screen changed to show a smoke-filled command center. A bloodied officer came into view, Colonel Hassani of Station Security. Thunderchild, this is Arcturus. About damn time, he said, coughing. We've got civilians trapped in sectors 7 through 12, and the Sphairon are cutting through our bulkheads like they're paper. Colonel, we have a possible countermeasure, but we need to get closer to their command ship, Maya explained. Can your remaining defenses provide any distraction? Hassani laughed bitterly. For what it's worth, yes. But make it count, Captain. We've lost 3,000 people already. As the transmission ended, Maya turned to her crew. New plan. We're going to use the station's distress as cover to approach their flagship. Stealth systems at maximum. Captain, Liu objected. Stealth systems are still compromised from the strain on our engines. Then we'll have to be quick, Maya replied. Weapons, prepare all conventional systems. Target their propulsion the moment we're detected. The Thunderchild slipped through space, using the debris field from the damaged station as additional cover. On the view screen, they watched as Arcturus's remaining defense platforms suddenly blazed to life, focusing fire on a single point in the Sphairon formation. Now full impulse toward their flagship, Maya ordered. Dr. Keller, ready the Sunbreak device. The warship accelerated, abandoning stealth for speed. Almost immediately, alarms blared across the bridge. We've been detected, Jackson called out. 3 Spherian vessels breaking off to intercept. Evasive maneuvers, Maya commanded. All forward batteries, fire at will. The Thunderchild shuddered as its railguns unleashed destruction, the hypervelocity rounds tearing through the first intercepting Spherian ship. But the other 2 adjusted their approach, crystal hulls glowing as they charged weapons. Impact in 5 seconds. Chen warned. Brace. Maya shouted. The bridge crew grabbed their stations as enemy fire washed over the Thunderchild's shields. Systems flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, the ship's artificial gravity failed before emergency backups engage. Shields at 37%, Liu reported. We can't take another hit like that. We won't have to, Maya said, pointing to the view screen where the Spherian flagship loomed. Launch Sunbreak now. The modified device shot from the Thunderchild's launch bay, streaking toward the massive crystalline vessel. Unlike before, this probe didn't immediately detonate. Instead, it attached itself to the flagship's hull. Detonation in 10 seconds, Keller announced, watching her tablet. The probe is establishing connection with their communication network. The bridge crew held their breath as the countdown reached 0. There was no visible explosion, no dramatic flash. For a terrifying moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, chaos erupted. The Spherian ships, previously moving with perfect coordination, suddenly began firing upon each other. Some spun wildly out of control, while others accelerated into collision courses with their allies. It's working, Keller exclaimed. The quantum disruption is propagating through their network, corrupting their communications. Maya allowed herself a brief smile before turning to Rodriguez. Open a channel to all frequencies the Spherian might monitor. When Rodriguez nodded, Maya spoke clearly and forcefully. Attention, Spherian Collective. Your network has been compromised. Your hive connection is severed. Each of your ships now stands alone, isolated. This is humanity's response to your demand for surrender. On the view screen, the Spherian fleet's disarray continued to spread. Ships that had been attacking Arcturus Station broke off, some retreating while others simply drifted aimlessly. Captain, Jackson called out suddenly. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the flagship. They're jettisoning something. The tactical display zoomed in to show dozens of small craft launching from the damaged flagship, heading not toward the battle but away, deeper into space. Escape pods, Liu suggested. No, Keller said, her face paling as she studied the readings. Those are data transmission vessels. They're isolating parts of their hive mind to protect it from our attack. Maya's momentary triumph vanished. Track them, she ordered. We can't let them escape with intact data on Sunbreak. Before the Thunderchild could respond, a new threat emerged. 3 previously dormant Spherian vessels suddenly activated, moving with the same perfect coordination they had shown before the attack. How is that possible? Maya demanded. They must have been isolated from the main network, Keller theorized, operating on a separate communication channel. The 3 ships accelerated toward Arcturus Station, their weapons charging. They're targeting the civilian sectors, Jackson warned. Maya didn't hesitate. Intercept course, maximum speed, all power to forward shields. The Thunderchild surged forward, placing itself between the attacking vessels and the vulnerable station. The ship groaned under the strain, systems already damaged from the previous encounter. They're firing, Chen shouted. The impact was catastrophic. The bridge lights failed completely as emergency systems struggled to compensate for the massive energy discharge. Maya was thrown from her chair, pain shooting through her shoulder as she collided with a bulkhead. Damage report, she called out as the emergency lighting flickered on. Liu pulled himself back to his station. Main power down. Engines at 20%. Weapons are offline, Captain. Through the view screen, Maya watched helplessly as the 3 Spherian ships moved past the crippled Thunderchild, resuming their attack on the station. There has to be something we can do, she muttered, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. dozens of them, approaching rapidly from the direction of Earth. "Captain," Rodriguez called out, her voice rising with hope. "It's the home fleet. They've arrived." The view screen showed a formation of Earth warships emerging from hyperspace, smaller than the Thunderchild, but numerous. Leading them was the massive carrier UES Defiant, its launch bays already opening to deploy fighter squadrons. "We're being hailed," Rodriguez reported. Admiral Winters appeared on screen, his expression stern but approving. "Captain Reeves, seems you've softened them up for us." "Admiral," Maya acknowledged, wiping blood from her eye. "The sunbreak device worked, but not completely. Be advised they've adapted. Those 3 ships are still coordinating." "Understood," Winters replied. "We've brought something new to the party as well. Fall back and repair what you can. We'll handle the cleanup." As the transmission ended, Maya watched the Earth fleet engage the remaining Staran ships. The Defiant launched what appeared to be hundreds of small drones, which swarmed toward the enemy vessels in patterns too complex and unpredictable for even the Sparan to counter. "What are those?" Liu asked. "Autonomous combat units," Keller replied, a hint of professional admiration in her voice. "Earth must have developed them after seeing our sunbreak data. They're using the Staran's own tactics against them. A swarm mentality." As the Thunderchild limped toward a safer position, Maya took stock of their situation. The ship was severely damaged, with casualties reported on multiple decks. Engineering teams were working frantically to restore power, but it would be hours before they could jump to safety. "Captain," Rodriguez called out suddenly, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's not from our fleet." "Source?" Maya asked, instantly alert. "Unknown. It's using an encryption protocol I've never seen before, but it's addressed specifically to you." Maya hesitated only briefly. "Put it through." The view screen flickered, and a figure appeared, humanoid but clearly alien, with iridescent scale-like skin and compound eyes that reflected the light in facets of purple and gold. "Captain Maya Reeves of Earth vessel Thunderchild." The alien spoke in perfectly accented English. "I am Delegate Vexalia of the Keldari Exodus. We have observed your battle against the Sparan Collective." Maya straightened, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. "How do you know my name? And what is the Keldari Exodus?" "We have been monitoring your communications," Vexalia replied matter-of-factly. "The Keldari were a client species of the Collective. 3 cycles ago, we fled rather than face absorption into their hive consciousness. We have been in hiding, watching as they expanded their territory." "Why contact us now?" Maya asked, suspicious despite her curiosity. "Because you have done what we thought impossible," the alien answered. "You have disrupted their neural network. This creates possibilities we had not considered." Liu leaned closer to Maya. "Captain, this could be a trap," he whispered. Maya nodded slightly, acknowledging the risk. "What exactly are you proposing, Delegate?" "An alliance," Vexalia said simply. "We have knowledge of Sparan biology and technology that would be valuable to you. You have demonstrated weapons that could free other subjugated worlds. Together, we might end the Collective's expansion permanently." Before Maya could respond, Jackson interrupted urgently. "Captain, the 3 coordinated Sparan ships have changed course. They're no longer attacking the station. They are heading directly for us." Maya looked back at the alien on screen. "If you're sincere about this alliance, now would be an excellent time to prove it. We're damaged and vulnerable." Vexalia's compound eyes flickered with what might have been amusement. "Observe your sensor readings in 30 seconds, Captain Reeves. Then we will continue our discussion." The transmission ended abruptly. Maya turned to the tactical display just as new contacts appeared. Sleek vessels unlike either human or Sparan design, decloaking around the approaching enemy ships. "Unknown vessels opening fire," Jackson reported with surprise. "They're using some kind of gravitic weapon. It's tearing the Sparan ships apart." Within moments, the 3 Sparan vessels were reduced to drifting fragments, their perfect coordination meaning nothing against the overwhelming firepower of the previously hidden fleet. "Captain," Rodriguez said, "the Keldari delegate is requesting to come aboard." Maya exchanged glances with Liu, both of them understanding the historic significance of the moment. This was no longer just about defending human colonies. This was first contact with a potential ally, one who had already demonstrated both advanced technology and a willingness to assist. "Tell them they're welcome," Maya decided, "and inform Admiral Winters we may have just changed the entire equation of this war." As the bridge crew prepared for their unexpected guests, Maya stared out at the battlefield. The home fleet had nearly finished neutralizing the remaining Spherian vessels, while rescue operations at Arcturus Station were underway. They had survived, barely, but the Spherian would return, likely with countermeasures against sunbreak. But now, humanity wouldn't face them alone, and that might make all the difference. "Chief Tanaka," Maya called to engineering, "I need weapons and engines back online as soon as possible. I have a feeling our fight is just beginning." Little did she know how right she was. As the Keldari shuttle approached the Thunderchild, deep in space, the escaped Ada vessels from the Spherian flagship continued their journey, carrying with them not just information about human weapons, but a fragment of the hive mind that had already begun to adapt. The edge of extinction had been averted for now, but the greatest challenge still awaited. Defiance of the stars. The Thunderchild's command center had been transformed. Where once only human officers had stood, now 3 Keldari delegates joined the senior staff, their iridescent scales catching the light as they gestured at the holographic display. 2 weeks had passed since the battle at Arcturus Station. 2 weeks of frantic repairs and even more frantic diplomacy. "The Spherian main fleet has changed course," Delegate Vexalia announced, her compound eyes reflecting the tactical display. "They are no longer heading for your colony at Ta City. They're coming directly for Earth." Captain Maya Reeves felt the room temperature seem to drop. "Timeline: 3 days," Vexalia replied. "They have gathered every available vessel. Our scouts count 117 warships." Executive Officer Liu whistled softly. "Earth's defense fleet is barely 30 ships, even with the Arcturus survivors." Maya studied the projected course. This was no longer about conquering outlying colonies. This was an extinction-level threat to humanity's homeworld. The Spherian had abandoned their methodical expansion in favor of a decisive strike. "They're adapting to our threat more quickly than anticipated," Dr. Keller observed. "The data vessels that escaped must have conveyed critical information about sunbreak back to their central hive. And they now understand that humans represent an existential threat to their way of life," added Keldari scientist Thrix, his voice carrying the distinctive harmonic overtones of his species, "just as they once deemed our resistance too dangerous to tolerate." Maya turned to Admiral Winters, who had transferred his flag to the Thunderchild after the Defiant suffered critical damage during the previous battle. "Admiral, we need to deploy the Keldari countermeasures to every ship in the fleet immediately." Winters nodded grimly. "Already underway. But even with their anti-Spherian technology, we're outnumbered nearly 4-1. 3-1, corrected the 3rd Keldari, Commander Zev, who headed their military contingent. "Our remaining vessels will join your defense. We may be few, but we are determined." The assembled officers fell silent, the enormity of the situation weighing on them. Humanity stood on the precipice, facing an enemy that had been conquering species for centuries. Their only allies were the refugees of a civilization already broken by the same foe. "The problem remains their adaptation rate," Keller said, breaking the silence. "Each time we deploy Sunbreak, their immunity develops faster. The quantum disruption that crippled them at Kepler barely affected half their fleet at Arcturus. Against their main force, it might be ineffective entirely." Maya walked to the center of the hologram, studying Earth's orbital defenses. "Then we need something they can't adapt to. Something fundamentally different." "Captain," Liu began cautiously, "Dr. Keller and I have been discussing a theoretical approach." It's untested and, frankly, desperate. Desperate sounds appropriate for our situation, Maya replied dryly. Let's hear it. Keller brought up a new simulation on the hologram. The Spherin's primary advantage is their hive mind, their ability to instantly share information and adapt. But that's also potentially their greatest weakness. Liu continued, we've been trying to disrupt their communications. What if instead we hijack them? The Caldari data on their neural network suggests it might be possible to introduce a signal that doesn't just jam their communications but overwrites them. Thrix's compound eyes widened. You propose to introduce false information directly into their collective consciousness. Not just false information, Keller clarified. Human consciousness. Admiral Winters frowned. You've lost me, Doctor. The Spherin can't comprehend individual thought, Keller explained. Their entire evolution has been built around the collective. What if we forced them to experience individuality, not by separating them, but by injecting human thought patterns directly into their network? Maya understood immediately. Psychological warfare. We make them feel what it's like to be human, to be alone in their own minds. Precisely, Liu confirmed. We'd need a volunteer to be connected to a modified sunbreak device. Their conscious thoughts would be translated into the Spherin's neural frequency and broadcast throughout their fleet. It would be extraordinarily painful for the volunteer, Keller added quietly, and potentially fatal. The room fell silent again. What they were discussing wasn't just dangerous. It was asking someone to sacrifice themselves in a manner more intimate than mere death. I'll do it, Maya said without hesitation. Captain. Winters began to object. With respect, Admiral, it has to be me, Maya interrupted. I've experienced more direct contact with the Spherin than anyone else. I've seen what they do, how they think. And the crew will follow my orders to execute the plan, no matter how desperate it becomes. Winters studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. But I want alternatives developed in parallel. XO Liu, you'll take command of the Thunderchild during the operation. As the meeting dispersed, the Caldari delegates approached Maya. Vexillia spoke first, her voice solemn. Captain Reeves, what you propose is beyond courage. It is a concept we do not have a word for in our language. Humans call it sacrifice, Maya replied. No, Commander Zev corrected. We understand sacrifice. This is different. You offer not just your life, but your very identity, your individual consciousness, the thing your species values above all else. Maya smiled grimly. Perhaps that's precisely why a human has to do this. The Spherin need to understand exactly what they're trying to destroy. 48 hours later, the combined Earth-Caldari fleet took up defensive positions around humanity's homeworld. The Thunderchild, its repairs hastily completed, held position at the vanguard alongside the 7 remaining Caldari vessels. Behind them, Earth's orbital platforms had been modified with Caldari technology, their weapons enhanced beyond what human engineering alone could achieve. In the Thunderchild's medical bay, Dr. Keller made final adjustments to the neural interface attached to Maya's head. The captain lay on a modified bed, surrounded by equipment cobbled together from human and Caldari technology. The moment the Spherin fleet drops out of FTL, we'll activate the system, Keller explained, her voice betraying her anxiety. Your consciousness will be converted to a quantum signal and broadcast on their neural frequency. From that point, you'll experience everything they do. Maya nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. And the shutdown protocol. Executive Officer Liu has the authorization codes, Keller confirmed. If your vital signs indicate critical failure, or if the mission objectives are achieved, he can terminate the connection immediately. Liu stood at the foot of the bed, his expression grim. I still think there should be another way, Captain. There isn't time to find one, Maya replied simply. The Spherin have accelerated their timeline. They'll be here in less than an hour. Admiral Winters entered, his uniform impeccable despite the desperate circumstances. "Fleet is in position, Captain. Your crew has been informed of the plan. At least, the parts they need to know." Maya appreciated the discretion. The crew knew she would be engaging the enemy using a new technology, but the details, the risk, the likelihood she wouldn't survive, had been kept from them. "Sir," she said to Winters, "if this doesn't work." "It will work," Winters interrupted firmly. "And when it does, I expect you back on your bridge, Captain. That's an order." Maya smiled despite herself. "Yes, sir." The Admiral departed, and for a moment, the medical bay was quiet save for the hum of equipment. Maya looked at the faces around her, Lou, Keller, the medical team, and felt a surge of pride. Whatever happened next, humanity had proven itself worthy of survival. They had faced extinction and refused to surrender. "Contact," came Jackson's voice over the comm. Starin fleet dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. Keller's fingers flew across her console. "Ready to initiate on your command, Captain." Maya took a deep breath, remembering her brother, the colonies that had fallen, the thousands already lost. "Activate the system." Pain exploded behind her eyes as the neural interface activated. Maya's consciousness seemed to splinter, fragments of her awareness suddenly everywhere and nowhere at once. She gasped, her back arching off the bed as her mind was converted into quantum information and broadcast across space. Then, abruptly, she was no longer in her body. She was everywhere. Maya had experienced the disorienting sensation of seeing through thousands of compound eyes simultaneously. She felt the thoughts. No, the singular thought of the Spherian collective washing over her. There was no individuality, no separation, only the purpose. Consume, expand, absorb, eliminate threats. And humanity was the ultimate threat. With a mental effort that felt like screaming into a hurricane, Maya pushed her own consciousness into the flow. "I am Maya Reeves. I am human. I am an individual." The collective consciousness recoiled in shock. This was wrong. This was disorder. This is humanity, Maya projected, forcing memories into the stream. Childhood joy, personal grief, love, hatred, ambition, fear, the entire spectrum of individual human experience. Across the Spherian fleet, ships began to move erratically. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Lou watched in astonishment as the perfect formation faltered. "It's working," he breathed. "They're losing coordination." In the medical bay, Maya's body convulsed as her mind battled for supremacy within the collective. Alarms blared as her vital signs fluctuated wildly. "We need to pull her out," a medical technician urged. "Not yet," Keller insisted, watching the neural patterns. "She's still fighting." Within the collective, Maya felt the Spherian resistance mounting. The hive was trying to isolate her influence, to wall off the contamination of individuality. She pushed harder, diving deeper into their shared consciousness, seeking the core, the central concept that bound them together. And then she found it. At the heart of the Spherian collective was not malice but fear. Fear of separation, fear of being alone. Their entire civilization had evolved to prevent the isolation they found terrifying. They attacked other species not from hatred, but from existential dread that individual consciousness might somehow infect them. "We don't have to be enemies," Maya projected into the collective. "Individuality and unity can coexist. Humans understand community. We choose to come together even as separate beings." She shared images of human cooperation, families, communities, the fleet working together, all while maintaining their separate identities. She showed them Earth, its diversity of life and thought, its beauty because of that diversity, not despite it. The resistance faltered, confusion rippling through the collective. For the first time in their existence, the Spherian experienced doubt. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Lou stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "They've stopped advancing. All vessels holding position. Incoming transmission," Rodriguez reported. It's from the Spherian flagship," "Sir, put it through," Liu ordered. The view screen flickered to show a Spherian being, its insectoid features expressionless, but somehow conveying uncertainty nonetheless. When it spoke, the voice was not the mechanical tone they had heard before, but a chorus of voices speaking in unison. The concept is difficult. We wish to understand. Liu could scarcely believe what he was hearing. Understand what? Individuality without isolation. Purpose without absorption. Maya Reeves has shown us possibilities we had not conceived. In the medical bay, Keller watched Maya's vital signs stabilizing. "She's done it," she whispered. "She's actually communicating with them." Maya felt the collective mind shifting around her, fear giving way to curiosity. Millions of thoughts that had once been a single purpose now fractured into questions, doubts, possibilities. Not true individuality. They were still connected, but the rigid structure of the hive mind was loosening, allowing for variation within unity. "This is just the beginning," Maya projected. "We can show you more, if you'll allow it. We can find a way to coexist." The collective rippled with what Maya recognized as agreement. Across the Spherian fleet, weapons systems powered down. On Earth and its orbital platforms, humans watched in amazement as the enemy that had threatened their extinction slowly, deliberately, stood down. "Deactivate the neural interface," Liu ordered in the medical bay. "Bring her back." The technicians worked quickly, disconnecting Maya from the system. As the quantum link severed, she gasped, her consciousness snapping back into her body with painful intensity. For a moment, she felt a profound sense of loss, the vastness of the collective replaced by the limitations of a single mind. "Captain," Keller asked anxiously, "can you hear me?" Maya blinked, her vision gradually clearing. "Yes," she managed, her voice hoarse. "I hear you." "The Spherian fleet has ceased hostilities," Liu reported, relief evident in his tone. "They're requesting formal communication channels to be established. They want to talk." Maya smiled weakly. "They've never done that before. Talked, I mean. They've never needed to." Admiral Winters entered, his expression a mixture of disbelief and triumph. "Captain Reeves, what exactly did you do to them?" Maya struggled to sit up, assisted by the medical team. "I showed them what it means to be human, Admiral. And in return, I experienced what it means to be Spherian. They're not evil. They're just different. And now they're curious." "Curious," Winters repeated skeptically. "About individuality, about choice, about how beings can be separate yet still work together," Maya explained. "It's going to be a long process, but I think we just made the galaxy's most powerful potential ally." As she spoke, Maya realized the truth of her words. The Spherian hadn't been defeated. They had been transformed. The same connection that had made them unstoppable in war now allowed them to instantly share a new perspective throughout their entire species. "The Keldari representatives are requesting to join negotiations," Liu added. "They're in shock, Captain. They never imagined the Spherian could change." Maya nodded, understanding the profound implications. "Arrange a joint conference and contact Earth's leadership. They need to be prepared for what's coming." As the officers dispersed to carry out her orders, Maya looked out the viewport at the distant Spherian fleet, still massive, still powerful, but no longer an existential threat. For the first time since the conflict began, she allowed herself to feel genuine hope. Humanity had faced extinction and responded not just with defiance but with understanding. They had encountered an alien consciousness utterly unlike their own and found a way to bridge the gap, not through superior firepower, but through the sharing of perspective. 2 days later, standing on the Thunderchild's bridge as representatives of Earth, the Keldari Exodus, and the Spherian collective prepared for historic negotiations, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The war that had threatened humanity's existence had been averted not through destruction but through communication, the very essence of what made humans unique. As the delegates arrived, Maya watched the Spherian representative carefully. It moved differently now, with subtle variations in its gestures that hadn't existed before, tiny expressions of individuality within the collective. Captain Reeves, it acknowledged, the chorus of voices now modulated to sound almost like a single speaker. I bring greetings from the collective. Welcome aboard the Thunderchild, Maya replied formally. The Spherian tilted its head in a surprisingly human gesture. This vessel holds significance beyond its physical parameters. It was here that the concept of individual yet connected first entered our understanding. Maya nodded. And it's here that we'll begin the process of learning how our different forms of consciousness can coexist peacefully. As the delegates moved toward the conference room, Liu stepped beside his captain. You know they're still dangerous, he said quietly. Their fundamental nature hasn't changed overnight. No, Maya agreed, but they're questioning that nature for the first time in their existence. That's how progress begins, with questions no one has asked before. The Spherian representative paused at the conference room entrance, turning back to Maya. Captain Reeves, there is a concept we have been processing since our connection. We believe humans call it gratitude. We wish to express this to you specifically. Maya felt a strange echo of the collective consciousness, a phantom sensation from her time linked to their minds. We have much to learn from each other, she replied. This is just the beginning. As humanity stood at the threshold of a new era, the stars no longer seemed to hold only threats but possibilities. The defiance that had defined their resistance had transformed into something more powerful, the capacity to change not just themselves but those they encountered. The human warship that had entered the battle zone had changed the course of galactic history not through superior firepower, but through the uniquely human ability to share their perspective while embracing the unknown. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon had proven to be its consciousness, individual yet connected, diverse yet united, a paradox that had opened the door to peace where only war had seemed possible.